Ladies and gentlemen, you see, sometimes in life, a woman has to stand alone. It's not because she wants to, but because the people around her don't match the quality of her soul. When you walk through this world, you'll find that many people surround themselves with others just to fill the silence, to chase away the loneliness. But a woman who chooses to walk alone, that's a woman who understands her power. There's a certain strength in walking alone, especially for a woman. Independence and self-sufficiency are qualities that don't just happen overnight. They're forged through experience, trial, and often solitude. A woman who stands on her own 2 feet without relying on a network of friends to validate her isn't just surviving, she's thriving in her own right. She understands that her strength doesn't come from the people around her, but from within herself. In a world that often glorifies companionship and social connections, it can be easy to forget the power of independence. Society may try to convince you that you need a tribe, a support system, or a crew to get through life. But here's the thing, not everyone is built to walk with the crowd. A woman who chooses independence has learned to rely on herself because she knows that, at the end of the day, she's the only one who truly has her back. This kind of self-sufficiency isn't about rejecting relationships or pushing people away. It's about understanding that while relationships can be valuable, they don't define her. She doesn't need friends to feel validated, important, or worthy. Her worth is something she defines for herself, something she carries with her every day. When she faces challenges, she doesn't run to others for answers. She looks within, trusting her instincts, her knowledge, and her experiences. This internal strength is what sets her apart from those who feel lost without the opinions and support of others. When a woman is self-sufficient, she becomes unshakable. She doesn't fall apart when people leave her life. And she doesn't crumble when she's faced with adversity. Instead, she taps into a reservoir of inner strength, that deep well of resilience she's built over time. She's learned that the only person she can truly count on is herself, and that's more than enough. This isn't just about emotional resilience, it's about being able to navigate life without needing constant affirmation or approval from others. She makes her own decisions and takes responsibility for them, knowing that her life is hers to shape. Independence also means having the courage to stand alone in her beliefs, her values, and her vision for life. It's easy to get caught up in what everyone else is doing, to follow the trends and go along with the crowd. But a self-sufficient woman isn't interested in doing what's easy. She's interested in doing what's right for her. This kind of independence requires a level of self-awareness and confidence that many people never develop because they're too focused on pleasing others. But a woman who stands alone has learned to tune out the noise of society's expectations. She listens to her own voice, her own needs, and makes decisions that align with her true self. This independence isn't just a survival skill, it's a form of empowerment. A woman with this kind of inner strength knows that she can rely on herself in any situation. She doesn't need to depend on others to solve her problems or guide her through life. Instead, she becomes her own guide, charting her own path and carving out her own space in the world. This kind of self-sufficiency is rare, and it's what allows her to thrive, even when she's walking alone. One of the most important aspects of independence is self-reliance, not just in terms of making decisions, but in every area of life. Self-sufficient woman learns how to take care of herself mentally, emotionally, and physically. She's not waiting for someone to come along and rescue her or fix her problems. She takes responsibility for her own happiness, her own health, and her own future. This is what makes her so powerful. She's not at the mercy of anyone else. This doesn't mean that she never needs help or that she's closed off to others, but when she does seek support, it's on her terms. She's not dependent on others for her survival or her sense of self. She's built a life that she can sustain on her own, and that's a rare and powerful thing. This independence, though, isn't something that isolates her. It actually strengthens the relationships she chooses to have. When a woman is self-sufficient, she doesn't enter relationships out of need or desperation. She chooses to have people in her life because she values them, not because she needs them to complete her. This creates a sense of balance and respect in her relationships that many people never experience. Independence is a form of freedom. It frees her from the constraints of others' opinions, expectations, and judgments. It allows her to walk her own path, guided by her own inner compass. A woman who is truly self-sufficient isn't afraid to walk alone because she knows that wherever she goes, she's enough. She has everything she needs within herself to not only survive, but to thrive. In life, we often find ourselves caught up in the idea that the more people we surround ourselves with, the better off we'll be. But a woman who chooses to walk without a large circle of friends understands something deeper. She knows that the value of relationships isn't measured by quantity, but by quality. It's not about how many people you have around you. It's about the depth, the meaning, and the authenticity of the connections you choose to maintain. A lot of people chase popularity. They chase after large social circles because they believe it gives them a sense of worth. The more friends, the more social gatherings, the more validation they receive, the better they feel about themselves. But this kind of thinking only leads to shallow, fleeting connections. They fill the space temporarily, but they don't provide the deep nourishment that true friendship offers. A woman who understands the importance of quality over quantity is different. She's learned that not everyone deserves access to her time, her energy, or her life. Friendship is not about being surrounded by a crowd of people who barely know you. It's about having those few individuals who understand you on a deep level, who support you when times get hard, and who challenge you to be better. A woman who values quality over quantity in her relationship seeks depth. She's not interested in small talk or surface-level interactions. She craves real, meaningful conversations. She looks for people who see her for who she truly is, not just for what she can offer them in a moment. This approach to relationships takes a different kind of strength. It's easy to fill your life with acquaintances, to have people around just to avoid feeling alone. But it takes wisdom to realize that true connection is rare and is something that can't be forced or rushed. A woman who values quality understands that it's better to have one or two real friends than 100 superficial ones. She's not interested in the appearance of connection, she's interested in the substance of it. Choosing quality over quantity also means knowing when to let go. There are times when people will drift into your life and just as quickly drift out. And that's okay. Not everyone is meant to stay, and not every friendship is built to last forever. A woman who values quality understands this. She doesn't cling to relationships that no longer serve her, and she doesn't hold on to people out of fear of being alone. She's confident enough in herself to release what no longer aligns with her path, even if that means having fewer people in her life. It's not always easy to walk away from relationships, especially when there's a history or when you've invested time and energy, but holding on to connections that are draining, toxic, or unfulfilling only holds you back. A woman who understands the importance of quality knows that it's better to walk alone than to walk with people who don't truly care about her. She recognizes that protecting her peace and her energy is far more important than maintaining the illusion of friendship. This mindset also shapes the way she approaches new relationships. She's not in a rush to make friends, to fill her life with people for the sake of appearances. She's patient. She takes her time to get to know people, to understand their intentions, and to see if they align with her values. She's not looking for perfection, but she's looking for authenticity. If a relationship feels forced or unbalanced, she's not afraid to step back. She knows that true connection can't be faked, and she's willing to wait for the right people to come into her life. By valuing quality over quantity, a woman frees herself from the pressure to conform to societal expectations. Society often measures success by how many friends you have, how often you're invited to social events, and how connected you appear to be. But a woman who prioritizes quality knows that this kind of validation is empty. She's not concerned with keeping up appearances. She's focused on building genuine relationships that add real value to her life. In the quiet moments when she's alone with her thoughts, she doesn't feel lonely. That's because the few relationships she does have are rich, fulfilling, and real. These are the people she can count on when things get tough, the ones who will stand by her no matter what. She doesn't need a large circle to feel secure. because the connections she has are more than enough. This approach to relationships also allows her to be fully present with the people in her life. When you're stretched thin, trying to maintain dozens of shallow friendships, it's hard to give your full attention to anyone. But when a woman focuses on quality, she has the time and the energy to truly invest in the people who matter. She's able to be there for them in a real way, just as they are for her. It creates a bond that's built on trust, respect, and mutual understanding. Valuing quality over quantity isn't just about friendships, it's a way of life. It's about understanding that not everything that glitters is gold. It's about choosing depth over superficiality, meaning over appearance. A woman who understands this isn't swayed by the allure of popularity or the need for validation. She walks her own path, secure in the knowledge that the few true connections she has are worth more than 100 hollow ones. She knows that it's the depth of her relationships that enriches her life, not the number of them. Self-reflection and personal growth are powerful forces in a woman's journey, and solitude offers the perfect environment for these to flourish. When a woman finds herself without friends, she has an opportunity that many overlook, the chance to truly understand herself on a deeper level. It's not that. Friendships don't offer insight or growth, but solitude presents a rare, uninterrupted space where a woman can focus solely on her own development, free from the distractions and influences of others. In this space, self-reflection becomes a tool that sharpens her awareness, her strengths, and her ability to thrive independently. In a world filled with noise and constant social interaction, it's easy to lose touch with who you truly are. So many people define themselves by the roles they play in their relationships, friend, daughter, partner, but when those relationships are absent, what's left? This is where the magic of solitude lies. Without the external expectations or obligations to fulfill these roles, a woman is left with herself. This time alone becomes an opportunity to ask the important questions: what do I want? What do I believe in? Who am I when no one else is around? These questions aren't easy, and they require a level of honesty that many people avoid. But a woman in solitude doesn't have the luxury of avoidance. She faces herself head on. Self-reflection isn't about being hard on yourself. It's about looking inward with compassion and curiosity, digging into your experiences, your desires, your fears, and your dreams. It's about understanding what drives you and what holds you back. This process isn't always comfortable, but it's essential for growth. Through this introspection, she begins to understand her patterns of behavior, her emotional triggers, and her strengths and weaknesses. In the absence of friendships, she's able to spend time focusing on herself in ways that may not have been possible before. There's no distraction of constantly needing to be on for others, no external pressure shaping her thoughts and actions. This solitude is a space where she can finally listen to her own voice without interruption. This is crucial because in the hustle and bustle of social interactions, it's easy for her inner voice to be drowned out by the opinions and expectations of others. But when she's alone, that voice becomes clear, and it has a lot to say. As she listens to herself, she realizes that personal growth isn't a one-time achievement. It's a lifelong journey. Every experience, every challenge, every failure is an opportunity to learn and evolve. The solitude she finds herself in becomes a fertile ground for this growth. Without the influence of friends to shape her thoughts or opinions, she begins to form her own, unfiltered by the need for approval. This independence of thought is empowering, as it allows her to see the world through her own lens and not through the collective view of a group. This period of self-reflection also helps her to confront any unresolved issues within herself. Sometimes we use friendships as a way to distract ourselves from the things we don't want to face, whether it's emotional pain, insecurities, or unmet goals. But when there are no friends around to divert her attention, a woman is forced to confront these issues head on. This confrontation can be challenging, but it's also a form of healing. She learns to address her past wounds, let go of old narratives, and embrace a future where she's no longer weighed down by unresolved emotions. Another powerful aspect of solitude is that it allows her to recognize her own resilience. Without others to lean on, she discovers that she's capable of handling challenges on her own. She becomes more resourceful, more independent, and more confident in her ability to navigate life's ups and downs. She learns that she doesn't need to rely on others for validation or support. She has the inner strength to face whatever comes her way. This realization fosters a deep sense of self-trust, which is one of the most valuable things a person can possess. When a woman trusts herself, she becomes unstoppable. But self-reflection isn't just about confronting difficulties, it's also about recognizing and celebrating her successes. In the quiet of solitude, a woman can reflect on how far she's come. She can acknowledge her accomplishments without feeling the need to downplay them or seek validation from others. She can celebrate her own growth, her resilience, and the unique qualities that make her who she is. This process of self-acknowledgement builds self-esteem, and it reinforces the idea that she is enough, exactly as she is. Through this journey of self-reflection, a woman also gains clarity about what she wants in the future. She can set goals that align with her true desires, not the expectations of others. She becomes more intentional about the life she wants to build, the career she wants to pursue, and the type of relationships she wants to cultivate. When friends are not in the picture, there's no pressure to conform to a particular lifestyle or path. Instead, she's free to chart her own course, guided by her own values and aspirations. A woman discovers that personal growth isn't something that happens only when she's surrounded by others. In fact, some of the most profound growth happens when she's alone, when she's able to reflect, reassess, and rebuild herself from the inside out. This growth is quiet, steady, and transformative. It's not about making grand changes all at once. It's about the gradual evolution that happens when a woman takes the time to truly know herself, to nurture her own spirit, and to grow in ways that are meaningful to her. Solitude becomes a gift. It offers a space for self-reflection, for healing, and for personal growth that can't be found in the noise of the outside world. A woman with no friends doesn't lack connection. She has the most important connection of all, the one with herself. One of the most empowering realizations a woman can come to is that she doesn't need to conform to society's expectations to live a fulfilling life. When a woman chooses to walk a path without a large group of friends, she's essentially rejecting the notion that her worth is tied to her social connections or popularity. Society tends to place a high value on being surrounded by others, equating social status with the number of friends or acquaintances a person has. But a woman who walks alone has learned that her value is not determined by how many people she knows or how frequently she's seen in social circles. This decision to live authentically, in spite of societal pressure, requires immense strength. Society is constantly sending the message that to be successful, happy, or fulfilled, you need to fit into a specific mold, one that often involves being highly social, engaging in group activities, and having a wide network. But a woman who understands her work knows that these are superficial standards. She sees beyond the surface and realizes that her value comes from within, from her talents, her character, her mind, and her heart, not from how well she fits into society's limited definitions of success. Living authentically means understanding that conformity is a trap. It's easy to fall into the habit of trying to please others, to do what's expected rather than what feels right for you. Society loves to dictate how women should act, who they should be friends with, and what kind of lives they should lead. But a woman who is comfortable in her solitude has freed herself from these constraints. She's no longer playing a role to fit into someone else's narrative. Instead, she's writing her own script, defining her own path, and living on her own terms. This decision to live authentically often comes after a period of self-reflection and growth. A woman who has spent time alone, who has truly gotten to know herself, recognizes the importance of being true to who she is. She understands that trying to conform to societal expectations only leads to frustration, unhappiness, and a sense of disconnection from her true self. By stepping away from the crowd and embracing her individuality, she becomes more aligned with her purpose, her passions, and her personal goals. The freedom that comes from rejecting societal pressures is liberating. When a woman stops worrying about what others think of her, she's able to focus on what truly matters in her life. She doesn't need the approval of others to feel validated, and she doesn't need to follow the crowd to feel included. She's confident in her choices, even if those choices lead her down a path that's different from the one society has laid out for her. This confidence allows her to stand firm in her decisions, even when they go against the grain. Choosing to live authentically doesn't mean that a woman rejects all social connections or isolates herself from the world. It means that she's selective about who she allows into her life. She surrounds herself with people who respect her for who she is, not for who they want her to be. She seeks out relationships that are based on mutual understanding, respect, and honesty rather than superficiality and social convenience. By doing so, she creates a life that's rich in meaning and connection, even if her circle is small. Living authentically also means embracing the fact that her journey will look different from others. Society often pushes women to adhere to certain timelines. By a certain age, you should have a specific number of friends, a certain kind of social life, and even certain accomplishments. But a woman who rejects these pressures understands that there is no one-size-fits-all approach to life. She knows that her journey is unique, and she's okay with that. She's not in a race to meet someone else's milestones. Instead, she's focused on her own growth, her own happiness, and her own path. This mindset shift is incredibly powerful because it allows a woman to live with integrity. She's no longer making decisions based on what's expected of her. She's making decisions based on what feels right for her. This level of authenticity brings peace because she's not constantly striving to meet unrealistic standards. She's not putting on a facade or trying to be someone she's not. Instead, she's showing up in the world as her true self unapologetically. And that authenticity draws the right kind of people and opportunities into her life. When a woman chooses to live authentically, she becomes a role model, whether she realizes it or not. Others see her courage to live on her own terms, and it inspires them to do the same. By rejecting the pressure to conform, she gives others permission to embrace their individuality as well. This ripple effect is powerful because it challenges societal norms and encourages others to question the status quo. Living authentically is about trusting yourself, trusting that you know what's best for your life, even if it looks different from the lives of those around you. It's about understanding that your value doesn't come from external sources, but from within. A woman who walks this path understands that she doesn't need the validation of friends or society to feel worthy. She knows her worth, and she's not afraid to live in a way that honors that. This choice to live authentically, free from the pressures of conformity, is an act of self-love. It's a declaration that her happiness, her peace, and her purpose are more important than fitting into someone else's idea of what her life should look like. In choosing to live this way, she finds true freedom, the freedom to be herself, to pursue her passions, and to create a life that's fulfilling on her terms. And that's a life worth living. One of the most profound benefits a woman gains from solitude is the opportunity to develop emotional resilience and independence. Without the buffer of constant companionship, she is left to navigate her emotional world on her own terms. This journey of self-reliance might begin out of necessity, but it quickly turns into one of her greatest strengths. In a world where people often look to others for emotional support, validation, or even distraction from their inner struggles, a woman who walks alone learns to rely on herself in ways that many others do not. When you are surrounded by friends or in the midst of social connections, it's easy to lean on others during difficult times. Whether it's seeking advice, venting frustrations, or just needing someone to listen, there's a comfort in knowing that someone is there. But when those friendships are absent, it forces a woman to dig deep within herself for answers, for strength, and for stability. This process of turning inward builds a level of emotional resilience that is unmatched. Emotional resilience is the ability to bounce back from adversity, to handle life's inevitable challenges without being overwhelmed by them. A woman who spends time in solitude doesn't have the luxury of constant external support, so she learns to cultivate this resilience from within. She becomes her own source of comfort and strength. This doesn't mean she suppresses her emotions or pretends that everything is fine when it's not. On the contrary, she faces her emotions head on, allowing herself to feel deeply. But she also learns how to manage those feelings in a healthy and productive way. A woman becomes more in tune with her emotions. Without the distractions of social interaction, she has the space to truly process what she's feeling. She learns how to sit with discomfort, how to navigate through sadness, anger, or fear without relying on someone else to make her feel better. This emotional independence is incredibly powerful because it teaches her that she doesn't need anyone else to validate her feelings or help her cope with them. She realizes that she is fully capable of managing her emotional landscape on her own. This builds an unshakable inner strength. When a woman knows that she can rely on herself emotionally, she becomes less vulnerable to the ups and downs of life. She's no longer dependent on the presence or approval of others to feel secure or content. This kind of emotional resilience allows her to face challenges head on without crumbling under the weight of them. It's not that she doesn't experience pain or hardship, but she's learned how to process those emotions in a way that doesn't leave her feeling powerless. Developing emotional resilience through solitude also teaches a woman how to set boundaries. When you're constantly surrounded by people, it's easy to lose track of your own needs in an effort to please others or maintain harmony in relationships. But a woman who walks alone learns to prioritize her own emotional well-being. She understands that she doesn't have to be everything for everyone, and she doesn't have to tolerate relationships that drain her energy or compromise her peace. Solitude gives her the clarity to see what's truly important and what she can let go of, and it gives her the courage to enforce those boundaries without guilt. This emotional independence doesn't mean that she isolates herself completely or avoids relationships. Rather, it means that she enters relationships from a place of strength and wholeness rather than neediness or insecurity. She doesn't look to others to fill emotional gaps in her life because she's already done the work of filling those gaps herself. This allows her to approach relationships with a healthy sense of detachment. She values connection, but she doesn't cling to it out of fear of being alone. She's comfortable with herself, and that comfort radiates into every relationship she forms. Another powerful aspect of emotional resilience is that it gives a woman the ability to handle rejection and disappointment with grace. When you spend time alone and learn to navigate your emotions independently, you become less reactive to external circumstances. If someone disappoints you, if a relationship doesn't work out, or if life throws unexpected challenges your way, you don't crumble. You've already learned how to stand strong in your solitude, how to pick yourself up without needing someone else to do it for you. This makes you more adaptable and less likely to be thrown off course by life's inevitable twists and turns. Independence in solitude also allows a woman to develop a stronger sense of self-worth. When you're not constantly seeking validation from others, you begin to see your value in a different light. You start to understand that your worth isn't tied to how many friends you have, how often you're invited to social events, or how much approval you receive from others. Instead, your worth comes from within, from your character, your integrity, your ability to persevere through difficult times. This internal validation becomes far more meaningful than any external praise ever could. Through this journey of emotional resilience and independence, a woman also becomes more self-aware. She gains a deeper understanding of her triggers, her emotional patterns, and her strengths. She learns what makes her feel happy, fulfilled, and at peace, and she begins to build her life around those things rather than seeking fulfillment from outside sources. This level of self-awareness is empowering because it gives her the tools to navigate life with intention and clarity. Emotional resilience and independence are gifts that come from solitude. A woman who learns to stand on her own emotionally becomes unbreakable. She's not swayed by the opinions of others. She's not dependent on external support to feel secure. And she's not afraid of being alone. Instead, she embraces her solitude as a source of strength and growth. She understands that true power comes from within, and that no matter what life throws her way, she has the inner resources to handle it with grace and resilience. This makes her not only stronger, but also more at peace with herself and the world around her. When a woman walks alone, she naturally starts to prioritize her growth and well-being in ways that often get overlooked when surrounded by constant companionship or social noise. In solitude, she finds the clarity to focus on what truly matters to her, what nurtures her soul, and what leads her toward the life she desires. In this space of independence, she begins to shift her focus inward, making personal growth and self-care central to her daily life. Without the distractions of external relationships or the obligations of maintaining social connections, she has the freedom to ask herself the important questions: what do I want out of life? What truly makes me happy? What do I need to work on to become the best version of myself? These reflections often go unnoticed when someone is consumed by the demands of friendships, family, or societal expectations. But when a woman walks alone, she has the opportunity to turn inward and prioritize her own growth and development without the noise of other people's opinions or pressures. Personal growth in this context is multifaceted. It's not just about learning new skills or achieving career goals, though those are important aspects. It's also about emotional, spiritual, and mental growth. It's about becoming more self-aware, understanding your triggers, your strengths, and your weaknesses, and being willing to confront the areas where you need improvement. A woman who walks alone develops a deep sense of self-awareness because she has the time and space to reflect on her thoughts and behaviors without external distractions. She learns the value of self-care, not in the superficial sense of pampering or temporary indulgences, but in the deeper sense of truly nurturing her mind, body, and spirit. She realizes that self-care is an essential part of her well-being, not a luxury or something that should be done only when she's feeling burned out. She begins to prioritize activities that replenish her energy, whether that's through exercise, meditation, reading, journaling, or simply spending time in nature. In doing so, she cultivates a sense of inner peace that becomes the foundation of her daily life. This prioritization of self-care also means that she becomes more intentional with her time. A woman who walks alone understands that her time is precious, and she doesn't waste it on activities or people who drain her energy. She becomes selective about how she spends her days, focusing on what truly matters to her growth and well-being. This might mean dedicating time to personal projects, learning new skills, or engaging in hobbies that bring her joy and fulfillment. She no longer feels the need to fill her schedule with meaningless social interactions or obligations just to fit in. Instead, she chooses activities that align with her values and contribute to her overall well-being. As she continues to prioritize her growth, she also becomes more comfortable with setting boundaries. When you're alone, it's easier to see where you've been overextending yourself or allowing others to take advantage of your time and energy. Solitude gives her the clarity to recognize when she needs to say no, when she needs to protect her peace, and when she needs to prioritize her own needs over the demands of others. This boundary setting is an act of self-care in itself, and it helps her maintain a healthy balance between her relationships and her personal well-being. One of the most significant shifts that happens when a woman walks alone is that she starts to trust herself more. Without the constant input or opinions of others, she learns to rely on her own judgment and intuition. She begins to make decisions based on what feels right for her, rather than what others expect or suggest. This sense of self-trust is incredibly empowering because it allows her to move through life with confidence and certainty. She no longer feels the need to seek approval or validation from others, and she becomes more attuned to her own inner voice. This growing sense of self-trust also leads to greater self-respect. When a woman prioritizes her growth and well-being, she starts to see herself in a different light. She recognizes her worth and refuses to settle for less than she deserves, whether that's in her personal relationships, her career, or any other aspect of